Live, left, left, left. Welcome, James. How are you?
Good, coach.
Good. We're going to cover the middle game today, and we've got an interesting concept. Welcome, Dinaf. Beautiful. Okay, good. So, one of the most difficult things about learning the middle game is that there's so many things to learn. That's the first thing. So, sometimes you don't even know where to start, because it's easy to see the many things that could be wrong, but to remedy it is not as easy, because there's just so many things to choose from that you can start from. Like you could learn about double pawns, you could learn about opposite colored bishops, you could learn about, and all these things potentially could occur. So one of the most difficult sections of chess to learn, or one of the most difficult parts of chess to learn, is the middle game, because it could really vary from one thing to the other, and it makes it very tricky to say, okay, good, I'm going to start here. But there are certain things that you must know in order to play, and these things have got to do with the type of center that is that you are confronted with. Today you're going to learn about what is called an open center. An open center, it's when these two central pawns get exchanged off and they don't exist. That type of position has got a specific way in which you play it. And especially when you're starting out, it's important to know that type of center, because it occurs the most and it's the most dangerous. So we're going to look at a game in which this situation arises. So if there's any question, you stop me and you ask me. And if you feel like I don't know, we just move on. No. No, we don't just move on. Make sure that you understand something before we move on, all right? Okay, cool. So the game we're going to look at is a game between Mamedyarov and Topalov, and it starts with d4. And after d4, Topalov goes knight to f6, white goes c4, black goes e6. Of course, our attention is not on the opening, but if you have any question on the opening, just ask also. That's how you learn. Looking at analyzed games is the fastest way of improving your chess. Thank you, Gideon, for liking the stream. So after e6, knight f3, black goes knight f3, black goes d5. So this is a queen's gambit. White continues knight c3, and black goes c6. And we've got the type of structure which we refer to as the triangle structure by black. It's like a Slav, but not really determined which Slav it is. Thank you, Angelo, for liking the stream. So white continues classically and plays bishop g5. Black goes h6, and white maintains the principle that you must not move backwards So instead of playing bishop h4, which is an option, here he decides to play bishop f6, which is a less complex continuation. Bishop h4 could get very complicated after pawn takes c4, e4, g5, knight takes pawn, pawn takes, bishop takes, something like this. And these setups are not comfortable to play and are not all that clear sometimes. So bishop f6 is a very simple strategic approach. Hey, you're welcome, Chopin. How are you? So bishop f6 and queen f6, and here again white continues very simple with queen b3, knight d7, and he goes e4. Black takes on e4, white takes, and black goes queen to f4. Okay, so far all the moves make sense, and black has taken advantage of the absence of the dark squared bishop. He's gotten more into white's position. Now white has got a challenge. Yes, exactly. Yeah, bishop h4 can be very complicated. Even that, I might not even have covered the most accurate continuation, but anyway, for another day. So queen f4, white's challenge is the knight on e4, right? And here, how do you proceed? Because part of the middle game starts in the opening. You want to know exactly where you're going to place your pieces and how you're going to place them, and as fast as you can. So how do you handle this problem?
Coach, you can maybe play knight to d2.
Okay, but that would be a backward move, right? So to that extent, in your position, you've moved a bit backwards.
You're protecting your knight, and you're protecting your c pawn, and you can castle now. You can castle queenside now.
True, those things do exist, but it's still a backward move. The knight is influencing so many squares here, right? So if you move it backwards, it will be a big loss to your position. So you want to keep it there. Because if you move it to d2, suddenly your opponent can put the bishop on d6. You don't want that. The knight can suddenly go to f6. You don't want that. So you need to find a way of somehow either keeping your knight here or maintaining a position in which you are moving forward. Like Standard Bank.
Bishop d3.
Very good. Bishop d3. Okay. Enough. G3 would have created problems for you with queen e4 check, and you've just lost a piece. So bishop d3 is quite accurate, and your opponent goes e5. So your opponent is a bit over eager here. He wants to open up the position before completing development. So the other thing he's trying to solve is a problem which exists in all these type of structures. The c8 bishop is a bad piece when the pawn is on e6. So by playing e5, he's trying to release this bishop on c8. Welcome, Terry. He wants to put that bishop into the game, so he plays e5. But what's happening is he's opening up the center whilst his king is still far away from castling. What do you do?
Coach, you can castle and then prepare to attack.
Very good. Castle. This is the kind of move we are looking for. Here, play continues. Take on d4. This is really a waste of time because he's behind in development. He's busy opening up the center. What do you do?
You just take the pawn back.
Just take the pawn and improve the knight. Suddenly, if this knight doing all this, you've got this knight doing all that. So you can see the influence that your position has, right? And the one thing that you might not notice before our lesson is that these two central files now don't have pawns. This is the kind of position that we call an open center. You with me?
Yes, coach.
Hey, Shani, welcome. Blake is definitely taking too many chances. And in this kind of setup, this is very dangerous. Okay. So after knight takes d4, he plays knight to c5. Again, this knight is probably moving for the second time, right?
Yes.
What do you do?
You can exchange your knights.
Yeah, you can take the knight. Well done enough. Also, so knight takes c5 makes sense here because the move was requiring the queen to move backwards. So you had a choice between exchanging the knight. But the reason why you want to exchange the knight in this position is it makes your position more mobile. In other words, by opening up this, the bishop now has got more scope, the rooks have got more scope, and it handles a problem also at the same time. So that kind of a move justifies itself. So after knight takes c5, bishop takes c5, again, the move is put back in your hands. What do you do here? It's white's turn to play.
Rook A E1.
Very good. Dinaf just said rook e1, so it wasn't clear which rook it was, but rook a e1. Rook a e1 because it's the only piece not really doing anything. And in this particular position, you can gain time with rook e1. You can also gain time with rook e4. So the rook is not probably going to stay on e1 for a long time. Now, here's one of the secrets about open center type of positions. In these kind of positions, usually you must not move pawns. Do you get it?
Yes.
Thank you for liking the stream. Let's win. So a strong player will most likely not touch pawns. You just be moving pieces. You only move pieces in this open type of position. So after rook a e1, check, the king goes king f8. Black's position does not look good, but it doesn't mean that this position is lost. If he can solve the problem of the king being terribly placed, let's say he plays g6, king g7, and can play something like rook d8, he's fine. So what this means for you is you need to move fast, because in this position, Black has got 2 bishops. In the long run, this could cause a problem for you. So what do you do? What do you do in this
Knight
position?
f3,
Knight f3 is a backward
because I
move.
have to protect.
It's a backward move. One of the reasons why most people struggle with the middle game is they are first looking for defensive moves instead of going forward. You constantly need to be moving forward. Remember, like Standard Bank, they might have to pay us after this lesson. Knight e2 is a backward move. Dinaf gave you a correct answer there. I don't know if you can see Dinaf's answer.
No, coach, I
You
can't
can't.
see it.
Okay, that's good for you. It's a simple move. It's not a complicated move. I don't think Dinaf knows that he actually said the correct answer.
What about knight f3?
No, backward. You need to get used to this idea that in the middle game, you need to make progress. Very good, Terry. Okay, your chat seems to have come to your rescue, James. It's rook e4.
I said that first.
I know, well done. You've got competition, James. So rook e4 is the queen, which forces a backward move. Now, this is something also you need to understand. One of the ways of identifying an attacking move is that it forces your opponent to move backwards. Do you understand? An attacking move
Yes, coach.
usually forces your opponent to move backwards. So rook e4 does this. And after queen f6, your opponent is threatening this knight on c3. How do you handle this?
You have to play queen to c3.
Very good. Well done. That's a difficult move, actually. The reason why I say it's a difficult move is naturally in chess, you're always trying to avoid pins. You don't normally walk into pins. But in this case, there's so many tactical ideas that that's not a problem. And here, he also sets a trap by playing queen c3. In the game, Black played a5. But let's say your opponent is very is in a hurry to put this king into safety. What would be wrong with this? Hey Cynthia, thank you so much for liking this stream.
The discovered attack.
Yes, which one?
Knight to e6.
Ah, good. Well done, enough for spotting that also. Knight e6 check would be a decisive move. The fact is that, of course, if you take with the queen like this, white first takes with check, and after king e7, he takes the queen and is clearly winning. And knight e6 prevents the king from jumping to e7 to protect the queen, because the knight obviously covers all those squares. And if you just simply take here, you're losing the queen. And there's a threat here, there's a threat on e6. This position would be lost for black. So it's also a nasty trap that white is setting. So black goes a5. Obviously, Topalov is not going to fall for this simple mistake. After a5, what do you do? 84, 62, 30. Welcome. So how does white continue now?
Rook fe1.
Very good. This has got the principle of the least active piece. But it's also an attacking move because it comes with the threat of checkmate. So again, if a5 was played with the idea that I play bishop b4, if you play bishop b4 here, rook e8 would be mate, right? So this again would be a tragedy. So black goes bishop d7. Now, what does this move do? It prevents this mate idea we were talking about. So what do you do?
Rook e3. Rook 1 e3.
Well done. Again, for you to be able to think with it, you're using the principle of the least active piece. You ask yourself, if you've done everything right, this is the one question you need to be asking yourself. Which one of my pieces is the least active, and how can I make it more active? So, rook 1 to e3, with the threat of rook f3. Natural. It literally flows from one move to the other. Now, black makes a mistake and goes bishop b4. It's a big mistake. The problem with this move is on c5, the bishop is actually doing a lot. It's putting a lot of pressure on this knight. By playing bishop b4, black releases the pressure in the center. And this is a big thing, especially when he's behind in development. So here, if we are looking for a better move to play, it's very difficult to suggest, but maybe you must consider developing this rook like this, rook h6. Or h4, h3, attacking the king side. But the move bishop b4 is definitely a mistake. What do you do? Because now you don't really have a choice. Your queen is attacked, so you have to do something.
Queen c2.
Very good. Queen c2. Again, in harmony. After queen c2, black goes queen to d6. How do you proceed?
Rook f3.
Very good. Rook to f3. Just putting your pieces in more attacking positions. So rook f3 puts pressure on f7. All the other pieces are well placed. And believe it or not, you might not be able to see it, But the way you can think about this position is, if you're a black, what would you play? And suddenly you realize how much pressure is experiencing. Putting your pieces in the right place, or right places in the middle game, is what strategy is about. It's what makes people make mistakes. So after rook f3, black, struggling to find a move, plays h5. Here, what do you do? It becomes sharp now. You've done everything, you've improved every piece. So you need to now start breaking through. How do you do this?
C5.
Huh?
C5.
Very good. C5. Not A3, because A3 forces him to go back in a good position with bishop C5. And now he's happy. You have to move backwards at some point. So not a good idea. C5. And the point is, there's tactical justifications, of course. But my next question to you is, why is black or white giving up a pawn?
To get his white bishop into the game.
Very good. That's the point. Suddenly this diagonal is now also available for attack. That's the whole point behind c5. And these kind of moves, if you've never seen examples of them, they're very difficult to think about if you don't know the concept, right? Again, the question he had to ask himself is, which one of my pieces is the least active? Right? And it's easy to see that the bishop is the only one not contributing. So he gives up a pawn. And there's a guideline about giving up a pawn. Thank you, Daniel, for liking the stream. There is an idea about giving up a pawn. A pawn is worth 3 tempis. Are you with me? A pawn is worth how many?
3 tempos.
Yeah. So he gives up a pawn because he knows that with the king here, black has already lost quite a lot of tempi. If he goes for stealing these pawns, he's going to struggle. So by playing c5, it also leaves black in a difficult position because he can't really deny this pawn. Right? So he decides to take it. He decides to take by bishop takes pawn. Let's see what would happen if he takes with the queen. Again, after bishop c4, f6, we now have this knight e6 check. And after bishop e6, rook takes e6. And now we've got a problem. Rook takes on f6 is probably coming. Queen g6 is a potential move after some drama. And here it's very difficult to defend the black position. If you play rook h6 to prevent this sacrifice on f6, there's queen e4, and the white pieces are completely dominating the whole board. So this is a position you do not like or do not want. So that's why here he decides to take with the bishop. Bishop takes c5. Okay, how do we continue here?
You activate your bishop by playing bishop c4.
Very good. Bishop c4. Bishop on nice diagonal, putting pressure on f7. With bishop c4. And now he goes f6. What do you do?
Play knight to e6.
Very good. Knight e6. I want you to observe something that I mentioned to you earlier. White has not been touching any pawns. Do you see that?
Only the c pawn.
Exactly. Even then, he was giving it away. So knight e6 check. And bishop takes on e6. How does he recapture?
With the rook.
Very good. Rook takes e6. Again, it comes here with a tempo.
Yes.
Queen d7. What do you do?
Queen f5.
Very nice. Queen f5. Threat is rook f6 check.
Yes.
Queen d4 check. Bishop f1. There is no back rank. So queen d4. Protecting f6. What do you do? And he's also attacking this.
You chase away the queen again
With
by rook e4.
very nice. Rook e4. Hitting the bishop, protecting it. The queen has to move with the tempo again. So he goes, and again, I mean, he frees e6 for a queen. So queen check. What do you do here?
You have to play bishop f1.
You're forced, right? Bishop f1. And he goes bishop d6. What do you do?
Rook d3.
Very nice. Rook d3. He goes bishop h2 check. What do you do?
You take his bishop.
Take the bishop, takes on f1. What do you do?
Rook d7.
Rook to d7. Very good. Well done. And here, black resigned. Now, to answer your question, which is like, okay, I really want to improve in the middle game, you start seeing that the middle game is a collection of various pieces of knowledge. But if you summarize the game we just looked at, there are certain things which occur more than others, right? You start noticing certain patterns that if you master that, most of the time you'll be on the right track. Number one, don't move backwards, right?
Yes.
Of course, understanding the type of center that you are dealing with is very valuable because that gives you a plan. The third thing is Don't exchange unless it's forced or you're benefiting out of it. Use the pieces to attack. The fourth one is principle of the least active piece. That you use a lot. So you start mastering these things which occur the most, and you notice a sudden rise in your middle gameplay. But the one thing which I find is holding a lot of people back is moving backwards. Fun enough, it holds you back. If you master the fact that you must not move backwards, resist by all means. In fact, I would go as far as learn to sacrifice every time that you have to move backwards. This will be one of the best things you can do for yourself. If you know that every time you have to move backwards, you must figure out how to move forward. Okay, any question?
No, coach.
Yeah, Desh must be worrying about his position because he can be replaced. Okay, let's raid Fiona. Okay, so we'll end our session here. Let's raid Fiona. Okay, good. Thank you so much, guys. I really enjoyed. Tomorrow we can continue with a second game which I have here on the Open Center. If you want to learn more, join us tomorrow. It's a pleasure, Kian. Thank you. I didn't know you were in there. You were very quiet. Shani, you have to be worried, right? Well done, James. Good. Let's go.
Thank you, coach.
Cheers.